Garrett? Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's still
my
going.
goodness.
It's still going.
He came right back in.
It's still going.
Yep. Okay. We're ready. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Kyle.
Welcome, everyone, to Weeksauce. It is Monday morning. Garrett is on vacation in the Keys. He's been tweeting, and he said he wasn't going to. Garrett.
He's a liar.
Yeah, but...
Is vacation that boring? Have you ever been on a vacation so boring you wanted to jump back on Twitter?
It's difficult. It's an addiction. It is 100% an addiction. I love the idea of, there's a great comic
Twitter
artist.
rehab centers?
Well, yes, that could be. But Sarah Anderson, isn't that her name?
Yes,
yeah.
Sarah Anderson.
She has a great comic where she says, I'm done with social media, and throws it down, then jumps out the window. And then the next panel is her peeking back through the window.
It's like keeping up with the Joneses, right? We always find other people's lives more interesting than our own. And some people are dumpster fires. Or at least they make it seem like they're dumpster fires. So you just keep watching.
Yeah, I've definitely, I'm running into that problem now with my phone. You know, I was really enjoying, even laughing at the clickbait. But now I've really connoisseured my clickbait down to so little that it started giving me BattleNet forum articles as news on that thing.
So is that to say that BattleNet forum articles have the word tag news in them?
I'm not sure.
Because that's how you aggregate keyword articles, is you use keywords.
Well, it knows I want to see World of Warcraft discussion, but what I want to see is news. But there's so much just noise right now.
Phone news.
And fear.
Yellow journalism.
I think fear is the better word because Legion was amazing for a lot of people, and now they're scared that this was the Wrath of the Lich King and the Cataclysm kind of thing, and this is going to be an awful expansion. But if you don't, if you're not a fan of World of Warcraft, I know we spent a lot of time on the past episodes talking about that, so we should probably give it a little bit of a break today, I think. We've got...
Put it to bed.
Yeah. We made our little game club. I'm excited to play with my friends.
Yes.
But it's time to move on because... Is it summer previews? Because movie previews are rolling out now by the dozen.
Comic-Con previews.
Oh.
Comic-Con happened this past weekend. It might still be going on. I don't actually know the dates.
Okay. Yeah,
but
I think it ended today because I saw a lot of sad people. Particularly, I saw tweets along the lines that usually come after cons where people are like, why is there businessmen in my hotel? This used to be a cool place.
Yep, July 19th through the 22nd. So yesterday was the last day.
Cool. And we got to see Godzilla, Aquaman, and then Teen Titans was like early in the week last week.
Yes, but those are the three kind of big ones. I know Shazam also premiered, but I haven't seen that one yet.
But it's Shazam.
And it's Zachary Levi who did the voice of Flynn Rider in Rapunzel.
Interesting.
Or Tangled, pardon me.
What was the movie that had How to Train Your Dragon in it recently?
But How to Train Your Dragon? I mean,
yeah,
that's
the
movie.
The kid, Hiccup.
Oh, Hiccup. Well, he's been in quite a bit. I don't know modern one. I know there's the Fanboys. That's an old classic that I enjoy that he's in.
That's true. With who was the guy? I guess that was just a dude in Avatar. The nerdy. That wasn't Hiccup.
I don't think it was Hiccup.
No. Anyway, so where would you like to start on these fine trailers?
You brought up the previews. You do it, Kyle. You're the host.
All right,
Lead us down this discussion path.
All right. So my first reaction in general to all of these. WB still has a beautiful people problem.
Beautiful people problem.
Yes. And it's something that is very apparent when you get into voice acting. And when you look at these without seeing the beautiful WB people, and I'm talking about like Gilmore Girls and, all the WB shows that used to just be about handsome people with problems, right? I think that's what they're doing here. They have some sort of aggregate source of beautiful people. But for movies like this, you need sci-fi people. You need Star Trek actors. You don't necessarily require just normal model actors.
I thought you were going to say they weren't pretty enough.
No, I'm going the opposite direction in that I'm afraid that these people are so beautiful, they rely on their looks. In particular, in the Aquaman trailer, when it is so much of his future queen, perhaps, the vibrant, false redhead.
That wig was very wiggy.
Was it a wig? Was it a
dye
job?
it's absolutely a wig. Or maybe it was, I don't know. I can't tell anymore. But maybe that's good. Maybe it's so good of a wig, you don't know if it's a bad dye job or a wig.
I guess the real complication with the wig thing is if it goes straight to the roots, then it looks like a wig. And if it doesn't go to the roots, then it's a bad dye job. So maybe there's no like happy in between when you go that vibrant of a color.
Yeah, that unnatural but I mean, she is from the sea, so maybe that's what they were going for, right?
She's
she's a clownfish or something. She's like a little starfish.
Oh, brutal. I mean,
clownfish are cute. That was not an insult.
Well, who is it? I only
just
know
orange.
Manta Ray there at the end shooting laser eyes. I mean, Manta Ray is the name of the bad guy from SpongeBob, so it's not SpongeBob.
Or is it Black Manta? I don't know.
That actually might be more on point.
He's got a ridiculous helmet, though. Do you think it's a spaceship and it takes off with his head in it?
I mean, either way, Aquaman, I think, was the best part of Justice League, the movie.
Yes.
So I'm glad that the actor...
Momoa.
Yes, that he's getting his own film. That's really exciting for me.
Now, it's... Okay. They're clearly trying to do Thor with Aquaman.
Yes.
It's not going to be as good as Thor. Because it was like a mashup of the first Thor movie with Thor Ragnarok with those shots. And you can't... Like, the first Thor movie was such a great coming-of-age story. And then Ragnarok was just ridiculously fun.
Yeah.
So here they're doing an origin story that's also ridiculously fun. I mean, Momoa has to... Not the actor. He's fully realized as a person, I'm sure. But Aquaman clearly has to come into his own. It's that taking the throne Black Panther thing.
Well, I mean, if we want to go, like, shot by shot here, the shark didn't look that great.
No. But I mean, do any of the Marvel graphics look that great when you actually look at them? No, they've aged horribly.
Well, and even something like Black Panther, I just don't think animals. I think animals should be avoided. Robots should be encouraged.
Yeah.
And we should always go for more mechanical and plastic and shiny looks. When we get to animals, something goes wrong, and like when you're doing a monkey. A real-life monkey, you can see how distracted it is. Or in your case, because you've had dogs in the past and I haven't, like there was the Game of Thrones scene, and the dog walks in, and it's like, and the sound effects.
But it was so happy.
Yeah, like he wanted a snack. Like that dog did not want to eat the face of a bad guy.
He was not going to eat that guy's face.
No. So I think we need to accept that at least for now, unless we're doing mocap, and it's like Andy Serkis having at it, because Godzilla's not bad, because he moves, pretty well. In fact,
Planet of the Apes?
Wait, Planet of the Apes?
Was
the
monkey?
Yeah.
Caesar.
But maybe there's such a wealth of monkeys there, apes, that because they're all everywhere, we come to accept it. When that shark is like, here's a shark, it's a bit more like, Return of the Mummy, and the rock's coming out as a scorpion. It's just a bit shocking.
Yeah, it's real life against a very CGI life.
Yeah.
Because that's not what sea critters look like. We've seen sea critters, so our brains know what they look like actually. So something about the texture, the lighting, the movement, it doesn't sit well.
So maybe when we get to, like, Aqualand? Atlantis. Is he Atlantis? Is that where he comes from?
Aqualand. What's your favorite ride at Aqualand?
Aqualand, my favorite ride is the mammoth. That's not. Damn it. I mean, what is
mammoth? Is that so? I'm guessing the mammoth is like a roller coaster.
I'm trying to think
one
of
those
giant.
Those swings.
Oh, the
right?
Kraken. The Kraken.
The Kraken.
Yeah. You gotta have a big creature, and then it goes like the Kumba.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so that's our favorite ride there. But Atlantis, you're correct. Atlantis is the underwater city.
Okay.
Ruled by Aquaman, and Mira is his chick.
Cool. And then his brother's taking it over or something. Also, that kids of that size with side statules.
Oh, you mean like the 5th grader?
Yeah.
How fashionable he was?
Well, I mean...
Dressed by a lighthouse man?
Well, that's the WB factor, right? Like, that's the WB factor, is everybody's in, like, these... like Abercrombie and Fitch. Everybody's, like, 10 years older than they should be. That kid actually looked on age. And they're all handsome. And they can act, in my opinion. But I mean, that was something I was sensitive to when I was younger too, because you saw those like Seventh Heaven and kind of shows.
No, remember, I didn't watch those because they were boring and I got left behind with the girls.
They were
popular
very
girls.
boring. Or even something like Beethoven, right? Like where they're having a high school party, but there's beers and stuff at this high school party. And I thought I was lame. Those shows made me think that my parties, my LAN parties, my Super Smash Bros. Gatherings, which didn't have any alcohol at them, were lame.
So do you blame the WB for being
For forcing children
like
to drink
outcast?
at parties? Yes, I do. I do believe that.
But okay, so is it okay though that they almost always got busted by their parents?
I mean, you know that you gotta.
That they almost always got in trouble.
You gotta teach your lesson. That particular one, Beethoven ripped down the dock, as I remember it, because the guys were like pouring beer on Beethoven.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
But he was a big dog, so I'll give it.
But
to
I may be
Beethoven.
like mix. I don't think that happened in Air Bud. Air Bud was the
No,
clown.
Air Bud was the clown.
Yeah, that abused the dog
Mm-hmm.
and wanted it to bounce balls. And Air Bud just wanted to play basketball.
Sick circus.
Sick circus. Absolutely. Just a horror show. Like Brain Grain.
Yeah, I cried.
Or Back.
I didn't cry.
It was, it's okay. Didn't he have puppies at the end or something?
Not in that one. I think like with the later Air Buds.
Pups?
Air Pups.
Yeah.
Sounds like the latest candy from...
I did watch Richie Rich quite a bit.
Oh, did you?
I thought that was pretty good.
Well, rich kid needs to find friends after all.
But what was the...
And his butler was his best friend in the end.
No, wait, hang on. Blank Check.
Blank
That
Check.
was the good one.
Well, that's because he kept torturing that poor butler.
Yeah.
Running him over with his tiny little cars.
Yeah, but the butler loved it. It was kind of like a Tony Stark kind of butler situation where, like, yeah, you pay them and gosh, you frustrate me. But, they're kind of best friends. The real friends that each one of them had really ever had,
Yeah.
Yeah. Blank Check. Damn. Haven't thought about that in a long time. Well, so anything else for Aquaman on you?
Nothing except I am really happy that the design team went whole hog with the little animal critters we're going to be seeing in this movie. Whoever designed the monsters, they've got seahorse mounts, they've got shark mounts, they've got turtle mounts. They're a giant crustacean krill man that gets eaten by a shark. I mean, I will watch it just to see sea creatures fight and see just how deep below the surface they went.
Well, you love sea creatures.
I love the ocean.
I think I have a basic problem with Aquaman's powers, and perhaps it's just the fact that he's limited. Though he was voiced by Bender in the Justice League cartoon.
Yes, he was.
Who did a fabulous job.
He was charismatic as anything.
Just
and I think
a party boy.
That was my favorite Aquaman. And
Yeah.
it seems like they're trying to do that here.
Yeah. I just feel like all the other heroes have to be on land, and then you end up underwater, and things get complicated. Everyone's got to wear masks. He's breathing underwater, but he's not all blah, blah, in his voice. He's talking normally, but there's no bubbles. But of course there's no bubbles because he's
probably got gills or something.
Yeah, because he's breathing water, and therefore he would exhale water when he would make his sounds.
Although, I mean, fish blow bubbles. So maybe he gets to choose when he blows bubbles.
And I'm not
build
trying to
his
pull...
bubble nest to seduce Mira.
His ring to keep the eggs. Look, I'm not trying to Star Wars space conversation here. I know we have to suspend some disbelief.
Yes.
Star Wars space has sound. Firefly is more like coom, paw, poo, kind of echoey from inside the ship kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And both are artistic choices.
Yes.
Next up was really the Teen Titans. Which, is that TV? Is that actually a movie?
I don't know. I honestly, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Broke my heart. But they're going edgy, right? All the kids who grew up with the cartoon Teen Titans, we've clearly grown up and we want F Batman. Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. But it looks like, okay, but story-wise,
yeah,
it looks like
trailer.
It's going to be focusing on Robin and Raven, actually.
Yeah.
Starfire and Beast Boy are kind of these side notes, maybe because the costumes are
well,
side notes.
Well, I mean, Beast Boy doesn't transform in the thing.
No,
as far as I saw.
Maybe they're saving it?
Or yeah, those graphics are expensive and they're not done yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think edgy Robin is something that it's tough for me to ride that ride nowadays, because in the Teen Titans cartoon show, we watched Robin kind of deal with his inferiority to Batman and overcome it with his own villains, with Slade as more of like a oppressive Batman figure back to him, a copy of him even, because they both kind of had the staff ninja sort of power thing going on.
Yeah, and another thing I was reading is that this Robin Grayson isn't the edgy Robin. I believe it was said that Tim Drake is actually the edgy Robin.
Oh.
So they've kind of messed it up, because they didn't go with a Robin that's canonically edgy.
Well, you got
They went with the Flying Grayson Robin.
Yeah, because Nightwing, right? That's the rejection of the Robin title and then becomes his own
Or
person.
it's like, I'm becoming a teenager. I don't want to be your ward anymore.
Yeah.
I want to become my own superhero.
I mean, it's really just shocking because Teen Titans Go is such a cute show.
Yeah, Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing.
In fact, I encourage everybody out there to watch an episode of Teen Titans called Get Serious, where they are insulted by Superman, like Lad's Superboy, if you will, that they don't take their job serious enough. So they redo all the animation with all these giant, like, chiseled chins, and Starfire being like, I need to talk, not now, we gotta get serious. It's like they make fun of themselves, and at the same time these two shows exist. In fact, I think there's even a Teen Titans Go to the movies in theaters right now. So what are we doing here?
I don't know. I really don't know. And maybe that's the question, is the audience has been confused. Like, who are they trying to appeal to? Adults that are really into Teen Titans? But in that case, why wouldn't they go extremely canonical and true to the comic books, since adults really care about that stuff? Or are they trying to get teenagers who kind of don't care about it, and they're just trying to make Robin hot to get girl points? But he's okay. I mean, his face is a little skinny.
Well, I mean,
I'd want a thicker face.
That's the WB factor, right? The handsome people. But then
not like handsome. He's kind of quirky cute. He's not handsome like Tom Cruise is handsome, right? If you were to take measurements of his face and compare it to Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Chris Hemsworth, his face is too tall, too skinny.
I mean, maybe if you were looking at the math of handsome,
exactly, yeah,
kind of thing going on. I'm just sad that it appears that this is it's an interesting choice, would be the better words perhaps to use, that they would go so horror movie with Raven.
Yeah,
so
you're
small,
right.
So trapped in a room. I can't control my powers. Don't let me out.
Yeah, save me from this, even though you're a trapeze artist.
Well, and there's not that redeeming quality of it, at least in the trailer, where like Robin's too serious, Raven's too haunted, and then maybe Beast Boy is still joyous, and Starfire is
just an innocent alien
right.
who wants to experience the world.
Exactly. And those kind of bring those two characters out of themselves. And then you got, I forget it, Cyborg. Cyborg is kind of the mix of them all. He's got the whole, am I human or machine kind of thing going on.
He doesn't care.
But
He's just having a good time.
Exactly. He's always having a good time in the shows for the most part. Unless it's one of his serious episodes. But I mean, he's a comedic force in Teen Titans Go. So that's not something that's like Justice League. Aquaman might have some fun with that. A little concerned about some of the actors, but I'm gonna have some fun with that. But this one,
you gonna stay your distance?
I'm gonna keep my distance. Catch it on home video, because I gotta talk through that thing. I'm not gonna sit silent through a movie like that.
It's too heavy.
It's too.
My name's not Atlas. Get the weight of the world off my shoulders, bro.
I mean, it just makes Deadpool that much more true.
Oh, the making fun of the whole edgy stereotype in comic books?
Are you sure you're not a DC character?
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre choice, because I felt like in the past it used to be that DC was having more fun than Marvel, because Marvel was always trying to teach me about like diversity and oppression.
We're going too serious.
And I was
We're
like,
teaching about diversity
I was like,
here.
oh, I get it, Marvel, but like, there's some good in the world. Let's fight some bad guys, and they have to be like, no, we have to stop these laws from being passed. And I'm like, well, I'm a kid. I just want to see you beat up Magneto, and well, Magneto's kind of our friend sometimes. It was just a little complicated,
Yeah.
And DC was where we had some fun. Not that Gotham was always a chipper place.
But Batman was always beating up bad guys.
Yeah.
Back in the day in the cartoons.
Exactly.
Now, here's a question. Do you think, story-wise, it's going to be focused on Robin dealing with his relationship with Batman? Are they going to introduce that? Or do you think they're going to introduce a different villain for them to fight? Because they didn't really give us a clear indication of what was going on, except maybe it's Ravens and her dad's coming back, and now we got to deal with the dad.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of graphics, because her dad's a full-blown demon.
Yeah.
With the multi-eyes and all that going on. So, just seems like a difficult movie to pull off when you really get down to it. And expensive because of all the effects.
Now, difficult because of the choices they made stylistically?
No, just difficult in general because it's a tough story to tell in your time slot of 2 hours even. And difficult too because Beast Boy is not often Beast Boy. He's animals jumping around all the time. It's expensive in that way. Graphically demanding. Whereas like Harry Potter, the kids don't have to be fabulous actors because a lot of it is the adults carrying it. And then the kids are waving wands and the magic happens. Like no kid is transforming into a gorilla and then having to transform back and forth and deal with the tragedy of being a gorilla inside, Like, that it's easier.
Yeah, it is.
But you gotta have those adults. And that's perhaps, where we're hitting some disconnect too on a lot of these movies is, like, Harry Potter, those were sci-fi fantasy actors carrying that movie. And as the kids got better over time, the kids just didn't really have to be that good because they could just be mystified. Just act mystified. Here's the sets. Here's an actor you might know. They're mystified. It's done. Performance is made. Next up, Godzilla. And I am this is one that, it's just going to be a full 180 for the podcast here because regardless of how cheesy.
You're a Godzilla fanboy.
Yeah, I like them.
You're a Godzilla fanboy.
I like them. I like seeing giant monsters. I think it's interesting how small the American Godzilla movies make it because we really focus in on like a family and their tragedy being trapped in this crazy scenario.
That's because I think a lot of storytellers fail to understand that you can tell a great story without humans. Things can be right because we tell the story through the eyes of the humans because we want our audience to connect. But it doesn't always have to be that way if you give a human story to non-human creatures.
Sure. It's such an interesting disconnect from the original.
Like, what if Godzilla was hooking up with Rodan? And they tell their love story. Right,
well,
you could connect.
It could be the Matthew Broderick. It's pregnant, that was
That's true. It just wants to lay its eggs.
Right? It just wants to lay its eggs in Madison Square Gardens. What's wrong with that?
Mm-hmm.
Those things were kind of cute, too.
They were.
And, the gumballs and all that. I enjoyed that scene in general, them running around the inside. I think I'm a little over tragic death Godzilla who's not actually dead. Like, don't old yeller me, bro, at this point.
Oh, when they end the movie with him pretending to die or something?
Yeah, but then his eye opens under the water because he regenerates or something like that. Like, just, I like when he just walks off.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, thank you, Godzilla. But it's such a disconnect from the old boardroom. Like, if you watch the original and old Godzillas, there's a lot of just, like, people standing around.
Well, that's the movie storytelling of the time period,
That's
right?
true.
The 1950s is when it first came out, the first Godzilla.
Well, it's such an interesting thing, too, because you have the quiet ladies in those movies
Mm-hmm.
who already know that Godzilla's a good person or that the missile's been launched. But like a lot of the drama of that scene is all the men sitting at the table. She's standing in the corner, you know, holding books and whatnot because she's just the secretary or something like that. But it keeps lingering on her because she knows the truth, but she can't even say it. Like that's the drama. It's like in this boardroom, she can't even talk. She's not allowed to speak her mind. How will she get her mind out? Hopefully the scientist who loves her will listen enough to actually communicate that we shouldn't lead him to an electric plant. Or it's a little boy. And the little boy loves, was it Chimera? Friend to all children? The turtle?
The turtle.
I forget friend to children's name. But this one, you know, they're going through the monsters pretty fast. We saw... It looked like there was even a flash of the butterfly, but it may have all just been the flying.
No, the butterfly was there.
he's
It was
there?
opening his wings. It was beautiful.
We got the pterodactyl.
We got the three-headed dragon.
Yep. The three, yeah, at the end there. I mean, that seems like it's, you know, for next time kind of thing. But I like this, I like the Godzilla model. I think he's fun. I think he's a lot more fun than the Godzilla that was done with the puppets recently. Gosh, I forget. It's got one of those.
Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, Shin. I wanted to say Godzilla Zero.
Gamera.
Yeah. Chimera?
Gamera.
Gamera. Friend to all children.
Yep.
Yes.
Friend to all children.
Worth a watch, honestly.
His
But,
last appearance was in 2006 in Gamera the Brave.
well, I mean, still.
Gamera.
Like, great for a riff tracks if you enjoy that sort of thing. But
I was surprised with how hopeful the preview was. I mean,
Yeah.
the music wasn't the brrr, brrr this summer.
well,
Brrr.
I think it's safe to say
Not
people
the
are a little
Reapers.
burnt out on that, perhaps.
Yeah, so we've gone with this swelling soundtrack in the background, even though lots of crazy stuff is going around. And I love the fact that we're the disease, and these titans that are waking up are the fever.
Wait, who's...
I didn't see any cowbell, though, so I was really sad.
I don't remember. Was that said by someone in the
It
trailer?
said in the beginning
Yeah, but
that the world is sick and they're the fever.
But I mean, like, the dragon's not saying that. It's some dude. It's always some...
It's the chick.
We killed the planet. Like, that's the equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. So it was ridiculous then that it went all hopeful and stuff. So I don't know if there's actually going to be a big evil monster or anything, but we've got to collect all the Pokemon. And once we assemble, I guess we get to summon Mew or something. In the form of Godzilla. Either way, we got to go.
Well, he's the
monster
protector,
hunting.
right? Like, that's what makes Godzilla. So you want to see monsters fight,
Yes.
and you get one on your side, and it just so happens he happens to be one of the coolest looking ones.
No, totally.
One with a great laser beam.
Right? His back lights up, and then
Yeah.
he shoots the laser beam, and that's amazing.
Ah, he's cool.
Do you think he's going to fight the other Titans, or do you think
That's the idea,
it's
right?
just going to end with Earth being wiped out?
Oh.
They're finally going to get sick of our BS, and they're just going to lay waste to the planet, because we can't stand against them.
I think...
We nuke them, they get stronger.
Yeah, well, that's true. All these movies, though, like, of all of them recently, I think that Dino Island, what was it called? Skull Island, right?
Yeah, King Kong, Skull Island.
Yeah, that was fun. I had a really good time in that movie.
But that's because they did such a great... And that's another one where you are with the people, but they do a great job humanizing the monster. And
Well,
they don't do it in a weird, corny way, like he
No.
learns to touch somebody with his finger. No, he's just... You watch him through the eyes of these scared people, and he just does things that we as humans would do. He needs to eat.
Yeah.
He gets attacked by something, he kills it. He's a little wounded, so he kind of licks his wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, you got what Mick Fuzzy Hair there from
and
Chicago and whatnot.
Probably one of the best actors ever. John C. Reilly?
Is he Wreck-It Ralph or is it somebody else?
He is Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Yeah, John C. Reilly.
God, he's lovable.
He's amazing.
Like just his insanity in that movie just sells it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a lot like in the Predator movie, I really liked the even short performance of Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, yeah. Where they're all put on the island.
Right. Well, he wants to eat him. I think like he's gassing them or something. Then he
Mm-hmm.
wants to eat them, but they're trapped on Space Hunter Planet
Mm-hmm.
with the predators. But I like that. Like I think those are such stronger choices. And when we don't go to L.A., Like, let's just stop going to LA. That was the great thing about Skull Island, is just, it was all on the island.
All on the island.
It was that T-Rex fight, but that was the whole movie. We didn't have to go to New York. And I think that disconnect is just too much.
Which disconnect? Not going to New York?
Maybe New York used to be more of a spectacle, right? Like,
oh,
in a movie.
You mean when you take the monster from the island and put it in a populated city?
Right. Like, I think the overwhelming amount of safety that our characters recover in that moment is too much. And I think that's why I dislike it. Because the monsters are terrorizing, but you spent all movie building us up with this crew, like Jurassic World, or Jurassic Park 2. What was it? Lost Island?
The Lost World.
Lost World. Oh my God. They went and named with Jurassic World and there was still Jurassic Park Lost World. Jeez. We just cut out. Oh my goodness. Should have called it Jurassic Zero. When's that coming? Oh my God.
Well, that'll be next year, and that'll be the horror film when you got the little baby dinosaurs with long black hair coming out of TVs.
Perfect.
We perfected horror.
But in that movie, we build that crew. We got the hunter dude. We got his best friend. We got the dude gets a snake in his neck and runs through the waterfall. The machines, the little puffer fork that lands over the head basher one.
Yep, and grabs him.
Yeah.
Gives him a tight little hug, and then the monster can't move anymore, so he throws his head back and screams.
Yeah, we got always a bad guy, McUglyface, who goes to take a pee and gets attacked by compies.
Oh, yeah, he was the Russian in Armageddon.
Yeah,
I love him.
Yeah. Not that he's hideous.
No.
Poor guy. It's just they always make him sweaty. Maybe he's just sweaty. Maybe he's like the airplane actor and he just sweats a lot.
Just sweats all the time.
So they're like, you know what? Sweaty guy. You're the sweaty guy this movie. They could do him up like the Hound. You know, they make him ugly in Game of Thrones, but
he's not an ugly guy.
No. In fact, he's got like that I got cut rogue of handsome kind of thing. Like, whoops. Oops. Took a chunk out of my cheek. Guess I'm more handsome now.
Yeah, kind of like Squidward in his episode. The more you get hit.
Getting hit with the door.
The cuter you get.
Oh. Well, those are the main trailers that have been out right now. You did mention the Shazam one is out, but
haven't watched it.
No, I haven't watched that one yet. That was only just up this morning as I saw it, at least in Buzz. But Shazam is a bit cheesy.
Depends on how they do the movie, right?
Yeah. They're really going hard, though, aren't they? They're really, they're banking. It's like they said, wait, did Ultron kill?
Well, here's the thing. My prediction for Marvel movies is that we've been going for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
We've been building up to Infinity War, and we're going to be getting part 2 here soon. And with the ending of part 2... Marvel's gonna just kind of be slowly phased out. I know they're talking about releasing more movies, but financially, I don't think Marvel's gonna be as big of a force as it's been, because the entire story that they've built up over a decade will be done. And it's time to move on from people, we want to move on from superhero movies and get different. We want more John Wicks kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I think DC is probably doubling down because there's going to be this power vacuum. And it's going to be a very interesting struggle because Disney bought Fox. They won against Comcast. I believe they were fighting against, but they won.
So
Disney now has X-Men and Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Sony's still kind of weird about Spider-Man.
Or maybe they bought Sony. They were fighting with Fox. But Disney won that battle. So now they have officially Spider-Man and X-Men. X-Men.
I mean, there's no reason for them not to at this point. But there is that classic superhero problem where once you've done the mains, you then go to the secondaries and everyone kind of farts off till you reboot the mains again.
Maybe, right? But yeah, so they bought Fox.
Oh, they did.
Avatar, are they going to cancel Family Guy? No one knows what's going to go on now that they own Fox.
Wait, are they going to cancel Family Guy? Is that one of the
clickbaits? Oh, I don't know.
There?
It's a theory question out there. Like, what's Disney going to do, right?
Because Family Guy's too risque?
Yeah, because they own ABC, but that's their family stuff. So maybe they're going to use Fox as their, like, teenage hub, right?
Yeah.
Or Marvel's the teenage hub, and they're going to turn Fox into the adult
how
movie
interesting.
production.
When WB's always been the teenage hub. So now they're going to own they're going to own all of your grow up.
And that's a good point. We might actually get a good Fantastic Four movie.
They're
saying in the chat they own Fantastic Four now.
I mean, again, like, let's skip the outlandish parts of Fantastic Four and go straight to the lab, as it were. Like, let's not do the space crash. Let's not do an origin story. Let's just skip straight to them being the heroes they are, dealing with stuff. Maybe a super virus. Like, let them be scientists. I think that's one of the problems, too, is they become superheroes, but we forget that they're astronauts and science. But, you know, astronauts aren't necessarily scientists. They're more like rocket jockeys a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot, too, of Marvel's future is going to rest on this Miss Marvel movie that's coming out. Because she is going to be an integral part of Part 2 of Infinity War. And myself included, a lot of people are very lukewarm about that. Because what's she going to do? Where has she been this whole time? And then she just shows up and makes everything okay, kind of a thing.
I mean, is there a chance she was, like, in space?
Right, but, like, why would you do that? That's so dumb.
Hibernating?
Yeah, she was frozen in kryptonite with Superman.
Yeah.
And she comes over from DC.
Because we got to wake her up now.
Yeah.
Like when...
Why didn't you wake her up when New York City was attacked in the first
When Rainer
Avengers?
the Car is talking to Nick Fury, why didn't he call up his secret weapon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a portal over New York City and aliens are pouring through it, and we don't call in the most powerful being, apparently.
And they're like, hold up, you know, we need to let them become a team. We can't go bringing in bonus people. This is the Avengers.
They need to learn their combos.
Yeah, they got to practice their combos.
So that's the big question, and I think her movie and her role in Part 2 of Infinity War is really going to kind of set the stage for good or for bad as to what the future of these, not second string Marvel heroes are, but not the main pantheon that Marvel's kind of built.
I'm fascinated by that Disney deal, particularly involving what's going on with the Guardians of the Galaxy director and his tweets. And his tweets being brought kind of back at him after 10 years, and that losing him the job.
And all of the celebrities deleting mass tweets.
Well, you're right.
Mass tweet deletion, because what's going to be
What could people
trigger?
dig up on you? You know, like one of my original tweets, probably like tweet number 2 on my account, if I dug it up, was, I'd like to have a sexy knife fight. One day, we'll be sitting around, and I just watch like Animatrix, you know, like, crap. It's bad. But, you know, I remember, too, because I had to text it. Because there were no apps yet. I had to text Twitter. And I was standing in Borders working my security job. And I flipped open my phone, and typed, I'd like to have a sexy knife fight. Enter or send, you know? And that's on there. And what happens one day when they come back at me and they're like, wife of Kyle, how could you allow this? How could he?
Well,
a sexy knife fight.
And you know what I answer? I answer, we've had plenty of sexy knife fights since then. And I plan on having even more sexy knife fights later today.
Maybe not the best.
You turn it into a joke.
Maybe not the best example, right? But I don't want to talk about whether or not his tweets.
We're not talking about what he said.
Right. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about whether those particular conversations would be worth someone getting fired over. What's interesting to me is that Disney now owns Fox, which means they own Family Guy. And this is something that Venture Bros has been battling with recently, coming back again. They used to make a lot of homophobic jokes.
But they weren't homophobic, because that implies there's a fear of gays, and there wasn't a fear of gays. There are gay characters all over Venture Bros that are joking about their sexuality. It's not a fear.
But it's interesting that they have faced pushback while coming back. So what will happen to something like Family Guy that's run for so long, done so many jokes? Are those two risque?
I read an interview that Matt Groening, the Simpsons creator, did regarding the Apu character, and he talks about that what Simpsons has been on since the 80s.
Yeah.
Simpsons has been on longer than I think I've been alive.
Well, and
to attack that, like, Groening he's taken this in stride as best he can.
Sure, well, he's been through a lot
and he's
things.
Very well worded. It's a very, very good interview about it, because it's more of a discussion of how ridiculous things have gotten in current society, where just witch hunts for the sake of witch hunts. And when we talk, I compare it to the Red Scare and what I've read about the whole McCarthyism era, where you're a communist. No, you're a communist. Or if you want to destroy somebody's career, you're a communist, kind of a thing. And it's kind of building to this fever pitch. So it really makes me interested to see what's going to break the fever pitch bubble, and when is it all going to kind of dissipate again.
Well, I think one of the best examples of this, because they were such a strong character outside their stereotype, was King of the Hill. And you had the dad who fought in Nam, right? Lost his knees in Nam.
Lost his shins.
Yeah, lost my shins. And they have Mr. Super Nuisanpone next door. Mm-hmm. And that relationship builds, and he's so snarky and in Hank Hill's business. But that relationship builds, and I think at that time period, even King of the Hill being after Simpsons and stuff, we were showcasing a culture to people so they could become comfortable with it. And in that same way, having overly gay characters in things like Venture Bros or Simpsons or any of these shows help people become uncomfortable with that idea. In fact, something that just needs to happen more is just, like something like two guys kissing in a movie. It just needs to happen so we get rid of that shock value of it and it becomes a norm, and we all kind of calm down about something like that in society. So those serve a purpose in their time period, and then as we look back, we go, oh, crud, how could we let that happen?
I mean, sort of, right? But that's kind of taking an art piece out of the time period in which it was created. Because a lot of time, the further you go back with pop art, and this includes Renaissance paintings. Go back as far as you can. The stuff that survived, that was pop culture of the time period. You friggin' Chaucer wrote, the Canterbury Tales. That was pop culture in its time. That was popular stuff.
Isn't that the Wives' Tale and like those really kind of old, lewd,
burning
ridiculous?
Bums with pokers
yeah.
So you have to understand the culture in which it was written, so you can get why these jokes happen and what the author was trying to get across to the people of his time. Because you're right, entertainment and art is how we, as a society, express what we see around us, express our feelings, but also introduce other people to experiences, personalities, other things that they might not have come across in their own life. And then through that kind of topical humor, which we discuss entertainment with, you can learn to see the bigger picture and see that it's not that bad. It's actually really cool. But then it gets really weird, because then you have certain people that freak out when you try to have fun with something, and then you can't have fun with it, so you close off from it, and then that creates that reverse effect that you wanted. Instead of bringing everybody together, everyone really starts taking sides and planting their flags on their hills and going, if you're going to make fun of me for this, then I won't even like it.
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with the small towns entering the internet and a small town mentality coming online now. And in the past, like, let's take something more tame from my own past. Al Capone was one of my usernames in video game. Al Capone, spelled like that. And, he was a criminal. Mm-hmm. He was a gangster. He provided soup for the poor, but that was so people would really like him and he could be immune from the cops, like that whole story. Pretty removed. I think we can all talk about Al Capone for the most part without anyone getting pretty offended. So it's a good example for this. But in the original internet society, and that's why we're seeing that hateful pushback too, of people being like, if you can't check the internet, get out. Everybody is offensive here. Well, you know, if you can't handle voice chat, well, you shouldn't be a part of it. Like that can't exist right now, because you're ruining someone's day. That's my basic opinion of it. If you're gonna, you know, a girl in voice chat, you're ruining her day. Like, just don't do it. Like, just skip that issue. But in that same sort of way, we used to be in an internet where we all kind of agreed to be in this Wild West. And now everyone's online. And everyone sees Twitter.
And so it's not a Wild West anymore.
No, so people are bringing their small town values into the city of the internet.
Right?
And when you show up in a city and you start yelling in the streets your values, people put on earphones, they put on sunglasses, and they walk by you.
Mm-hmm.
And you would go nuts. And the first person to stop be like, hey, I hear you. You'd be like, yes, yes. And then they start building a little group, and they start, you know, robbing a bank or something. Like they have to make their point. So I feel like a lot of this is just because people are getting online for the first time, really. They're seeing the culture of the internet, and it's so shocking to them that they're rallying together to stop things they don't understand. And some of that is for good, because we should allow everyone to enjoy the fruits of the internet, to enjoy those voice chat programs. And at the same time, there's a pushback from the old internet culture of, we can say whatever we want. Well, it's crazy. Free speech. In a sense.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe the internet has entered into the teen years.
Yeah.
Where it's learning how to marry individualism with the greater groupthink. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
What are the laws that you have to follow, and what are the laws that you don't have to follow?
Right, and what was once cute as a child is now kind of weird, dude, as you become a teen. And you know, you had that stuffed animal you carried as a kid. Now you're still carrying it around. It's time to put it down.
Yeah, it's time to leave the stuffed animals at home.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a good question. Is this just the beginning? Are we going to fire all the people that say something bad?
I think it's up to... that is the proper evolution. And I think with the ArenaNet business that happened recently, and you can go read that yourself, I won't get into it too much here. That was for Guild Wars 2. And one of their employees had an argument online with the fans, to put it simply. And they fired them because they were arguing with their fans. And it got a little heated, you know, and they're the fans, they're the money makers. You know, your employees shouldn't be telling the fan base to F off in this sort of company mindset. I think the important thing about both those discussions all happening at the same time is companies are now going to cover that. They're writing the wording needed. They're getting together with their HR departments and saying, you know, we can support this. We can have a counselor who comes in and helps people deal with internet trolls and facilitate an area for us to talk about that. We can have clauses that say it's not just okay to say this is your personal account anymore. You know, you can't be on Twitter because you're a representative of your company. Now that's where, of course, you know, my brain goes high school, like, because I remember, you know, we had our lanyards with our IDs on them. We had student uniforms, and the number of times you had to hear you are a representative of your school, even when you're outside of it, and even without your lanyard. You know, when people find out what school you go to, you need to make sure that you're being and that was pushed even harder when I went to private school, because it was smaller. They wanted to get more money, so they wanted to facilitate awesome students and make people look awesome, and then parents would go, oh, how'd that kid get so respectable? Oh, they go to the private school. Oh, I should pay for private school. There came a time in my life where my parents came to me and said, okay, you either get to go to college out of state or we can keep you in private school. And I was like, put me in the public school. Get me out of here. I'm not staying in New Mexico for college. I want to go away. Far away. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing pains, I think.
Growing pains.
Growing pains is what it is.
Yeah. It's tough. But I'm happy that we can have a sane conversation with the chat here as well.
Yeah.
That, because it's an important topic right now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I don't we shouldn't aim to live in a world where you should feel scared about saying something, because we say things to try and connect with other people. And we learn how to say these things to connect through our interactions with others. So the more we try to push each other away and create these groups built on hatred and policing each other, that's just creating even more hatred and animosity. We have to be bigger than we feel sometimes. It's the whole idea of turning the other cheek. Just because you turn the other cheek doesn't mean you're laying down and showing your belly. It simply is trying to teach the fact that hate begets hatred. And so if somebody comes at you, don't give in to it. You have to be the bigger person, because if you don't put the stop to passing that hatred around, you know, they're grumpy to you, you're grumpy to someone else, then where does it stop? It just keeps perpetuating itself. So we have to be strong enough to not pass on the negative emotions we receive from others. And it's hard and it's not easy, but it's the best way to kind of move forward and contain the hatred to those that want to feel hatred.
Yeah, it's something that you said this past weekend that I think you made a discovery on, was that some people only respect those who can put them down. And like when someone fights you in a video game, let's say, someone is vile to you and they want to battle, they aren't trying to destroy you. A lot of the times they're trying to challenge you to see if you're worthy of their respect. And that is a very bizarre thought process. And even outside of that thought, I think people just fill you with energy, you know? It's basically someone runs up and grabs you on the shoulder and go, blah, 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 and the lasers connect with your eyes and your mouth, and you both exchange, and they just fill you up. And without words, you would just have to slowly, like a snake, digest that hate. And lay in the bushes and just like, don't step on me, please, rattle your tail, because you're like, oh, I ate so many mice, so many hate mice. Oh, they're so full. When we use our words, we're able to like slowly regurgitate those mice. This has gone too far, but
keep going with it.
Right,
it's not gone far enough.
We're able to like let that go. And something that was very powerful for me growing up was I realized that if I didn't say that I had a crush on someone, it would go away. But the second I said it out loud, it was true. And that was going to haunt me, and it would become all-encompassing. And I'd really notice that person then walking down the hall, and I'd try to, walk by them or conveniently locate myself to look cool. And it was just exhausting. And eventually, you just kind of didn't do anything. Just don't say. And it was easier.
You got to be the tank.
Yeah. Let's take some questions. We got some great questions from Twitter. Today, we got some great questions as well for previous episodes that we'll be going through. But let's go ahead and go with Rose's question. How has your precipitation in D&D campaign affected your lives? Do you find that that TWIB, that'd be There Will Be Dungeons, the podcast, has led you to new games, stories, and media that you wouldn't have been interested in?
Oh, this is a great question. Okay. So I'm going to say yes, 100%, because in all of my days, if given the option, I would have never chosen a Mad Max world to have a D&D campaign in. If I got to choose my setting, I would never choose that. So by saying yes to this and really going whole hog, I'm starting to learn how to embrace Westerns, Mad Max. I mean, it's never that I didn't like Trigun or Cowboy Bebop. I've always enjoyed those. But, not to the extent of higher fantasy, like fighting giant robots that you make a blood pact with and they turn into dragons, and there's a dude with a metal arm. They're like cat people and dolphin people, and you go to a different planet. It was founded by the Atlanteans. Like that, I'm like all on board with that. But you tell me Mad Max, I go to sleep. But now I'm really, really starting to see it. And we watched the first Mad Max and we watched the second one because I really wanted to try and find that thread that interested me. And I've learned this with my combat, and There Will Be Dungeons as well, because for so many episodes, it was just I shoot my gun. That's no fun. That's boring. but it was boring because it was on me. So now that I've realized that, I've started to really kind of picture so how do I move around and how do I load the gun? And we talked about this. Like, how do you do these specific things to give it flavor and vivacity that otherwise wouldn't be there if you're just shooting a gun?
So what did you discover about Mad Max? Like, do you understand why it's entertaining to people? Previously, I guess, an uninformed opinion, it's too strong a word, but your general opinion was that it was a boring movie.
Yes.
It's slow.
Oh, yeah. And there are really dumb decisions made in it. Like her going to the beach by herself when there are bad guys around for 2 hours.
Well, you were talking about Mad Max 1 there,
right?
The
first one, yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
There's just some choices in there that are just bizarre. But what about like the Road Warrior? You know, with the kid and the...
Oh, the kid's stupid.
Yeah.
The gyrocopter man just...
Sure, in his pajamas.
Infuriates me. But Max's character is what I held on to. Because we needed a road warrior for our group. And so I decided to take the fighter role to be that road warrior. Because that's what Bo, the DM, kind of wanted. At least one road warrior type. And I found that my interest came in coming up with the whole tragic loner story and how do you reconnect with people when you feel you've been cut off from everyone.
Maybe you shouldn't have named yourself Hope in that way.
But that's the thing. She already kind of had that, but now we're going through this again, right?
So we're even kind of we're chapter 2 when we met.
Yeah, because
okay.
this is 11 years after.
Gotcha.
She's been wandering a long time. She's done things. She does not.
Well,
feel proud
I'm not
about.
going to make you reveal more of your back history here. Those are for moments, and there will be dungeons. But that's interesting that we sort of fast forwarded past destructive Hope, but just by showing up with the name Hope. I think we all made immediate decisions that your character was good.
And that's the purpose, right? Because everyone assumes if you have a name like that, you're there to be a force of good. But everyone's got a backstory in a landscape like this. So why would everyone so easily hang on to that?
That's true.
And why would she go with the name Hope?
I don't know.
What is her real name? Find out.
On future episodes.
What about you, Kyle?
I do agree that the Mad Max kind of universe wouldn't be something that I would immediately pursue. I mean, I'm very Lord of the Rings in my own games. I want there to be a very defined quest. And something that I know I said on this show too in the past was I was very frustrated with our pristine, what was our town called? What Pristine became? Slave Town. I was very frustrated in the Slave Town parts because it was difficult for Rel, my character, my lizard barbarian, to suddenly be forced into so many human interactions.
Social politics.
Right, but it was politics, and I've often struggled with that Walking Dead, a gray area, nobody's good, betray everybody, even... What was we watched yesterday? The Departed. The Departed. Yeah, we watched The Departed yesterday. And like that's a movie where like nobody's really good and I'm like, "Oh, I want to root for somebody." So I definitely kind of struggled in that. And it was fun to experience that as my own sort of Mad Max character in that way. Because Varel is not infallible, but immune to so much of that politics. It was great to be a character. I got to be the character I always wanted to see in those situations, that didn't get involved, that tried to do what he wanted and tried to do what was right, but people pushed back, and that made them the villains rather than him being caught up in it. No, is our hero becoming tainted by the society of which he's been embroiled into? Also, I just love the play style. Varel was almost a wizard Kenku, actually. Mm-hmm. But then I found out Scott was doing the sorcerer route, and John was going to do a bard, and we needed a bit more of a front line. You were going to do ranged with your guns and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'm normally the barbarian, but I wanted to change it up.
Yeah, I almost always play the spellcaster. Mm-hmm. In fact, I often feel a bit like a bit of a dick honestly, when it comes to video games, because much like our Divinity playthrough, I always feel like I'm that guy who goes, oh, I have a spell for that. Oh, hold up. Let me just take my 5 times longer than anyone else's turn because I've got a spell for that particular situation because I'm so meta-knowledge on how games are played, or because I've played so much D&D. I know what spells are likely to be useful. And Varel is not capable of commenting on those things. He doesn't know. There's plenty of times where I'm sitting there like, this would be an arcane check, wouldn't it? Like, I just want to be like, hey,
Nash, you want to use your magic check?
Why don't you use your magic to do the thing? But I simply don't know about that universe. And in that way, he's such a fascinating character. I love his lack of weapons because it keeps him so creative. And so I have found I always enjoyed Mad Max, but I've now found an enjoyment for those movies like The Departed or Walking Dead.
Yeah, and if anything, what I've really been enjoying most is how do you come up with a flawed character that isn't edgy? Right? Because everyone's flawed in this universe. It's rare you find a character in such a desolate place that hasn't gone through an extreme hardship. So how do you but how do you act something that feels real, but isn't necessarily broken, and you gotta talk like this the whole time because my whole family was killed?
Well, and like even in that way, Nash is a joyous character at many times, despite his angst. And Varel has his tragic is that he's too clean, even. And perhaps in a lot of ways, I'm fearful that I'm going to fall behind in power level if we keep, making deals with demons or unlocking deep artifacts of power. Then Varel will be giving those up. But I've got my own plans of how to keep up with the group there. I'll save that for D&D as well. But he had a follow-up. What advice do you have for beginners to D&D or players returning to D&D after a long absence before 5th edition?
Radio silence. We've got nothing.
Well, I read the question. It's up to you to.
It's up to me to answer it. Okay.
To at least lead.
Have fun. I mean, if you don't know what to do or what to build for your first D&D, if this is your first D&D, go with something you know and something you know you'll like. You can play D&D in the future and roll characters that you've never done before or you think would bore you. But when you're starting D&D, go for that archetype you love. If you like punching people in the face, build a character that punches people in the face. If you're a happy, bubbly kind of thing, build a happy, bubbly character. Don't try to do this opposite weird thing, because D&D is acting practice. It's acting in a sense. And you don't learn to act by immediately playing characters that you can't even understand. That takes life experience. That takes acting experience. So play what you know first, and as you grow your understanding of the world and the people around you, then you can start branching out and kind of testing out and feeling what it would be like to be tiny versus huge.
Right. It's something you'll see a lot in forums of, DMs talking to each other, is anger as to why the systems have allowed for so many non-human races. And their particular comments are basically along the lines of, they can't even pretend to be a ranger. Why would they be able to pretend to be a tiefling warlock whose half-brother's a dragon? Like, it's too much for a new player. And in that way, like, you don't have to be weird from the get-go.
No.
In fact, the more extreme a character is either an experienced player wanting to try something new, or it's someone making a very big mistake and they're going to find themselves locked in. And a way better way to build a character is to show up, very clean slate. Basically play yourself with superpowers. But then that first tragedy that happens, maybe it's the first time you get shanked by a goblin really hard and does more damage than you would expect. Roll with that, and now your character's afraid of goblins. And let those impact you. And each one of those becomes part of your character as you go along. That way, too, the DM gets to grow with you. They find out, ooh, okay, goblins really mess with this guy. And this guy's really into undead because he loves fighting them. Instead of just showing up like, I'm an undead slayer. Well, guess what? DM's going to have more for you than undead. Your entire class is going to be bupkis at times and rather useless. And it's going to be frustrating.
Oh, totally. Especially if he's built a campaign where you're not fighting undead.
Yeah.
And then your character's just, and that's a danger of going too specific, right? Because you always want to give, what I found, you always want to give the DM something to play with. But you don't want to write a novel for the poor guy to read through.
Well, particularly someone like me who had, reading retention issues, I wanted a bullet point and 3 of them. If you gave me more than 3 bullet points and 2 sentences per bullet point, like I really refined this down to a thing because people would drop books on you about their back history. And the big struggle there is someone's telling you to play their dad.
Yeah.
And
let's talk about that.
Yeah?
Just back history. How specific should you get or not get?
I think it's okay to say where you're from or maybe a general area. But the second you name characters, there's going to be a struggle because there's no way the DM can personify something you made up in your head correctly. And until they say their name out loud, you won't recognize them by sight because, well, it's an imagination-based game. So here comes a man with blonde hair and yellow eyes. And every character's going to sit, and here's the daughter player with her blonde hair and yellow eyes. But they've heard 1,000 descriptions. So they're like, okay. And he walks up and says, hi. Okay. And then says his last name. And then finally the reveal's there, but the reveal is already lost. The momentum was lost. You're setting the DM up for failure there. And it's just a really hard thing to do to him.
Yeah. So if you do want to have a missing person in your backstory, don't give them any preconceived notions. Like the thing we did this last week with Hope and her mom, I'd never come up with what Hope's mom had looked like before. But you roll with it. It's a great game in improv. Yes, and. Somebody gives you something, you don't go no, because that kills it dead in the water. You go yes, and then you add to it. You add your own thing. So... and that keeps the story going and building. You're accepting that this character, the DM, has so graciously put into the story for you that was from your backstory. Say yes to. Doesn't matter if they don't look like how you thought they were going to look or they don't act the way you thought they were going to act. Just go with it and see what happens.
Now, for players coming back to D&D, Ro didn't
skip 4.0.
Yeah, I mean, Ro didn't include where he was last playing, and maybe as a big World of Warcraft guy, he actually did play 4.0.
If you like RP, skip 4.0.
Yeah, the combat was very, very grid-based and more tactical. If you're into Warhammer and stuff like that, I mean, you may even find 4th edition to be too tame, even, if you've come from other miniature games, because it's more of a debuff fiesta. And much like World of Warcraft, we found eventually that we just kind of stopped playing 4th edition at times because WoW was available, because video games just did that better. They tracked dots better. They tracked debuffs better. We had, bendy straws. What are they called? Fuzzy bendy straws.
Bendy straws, the pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners, yeah. We had endless colored pipe cleaners.
Oh, we even had to twist colors together. We had so many.
Yeah, because we ran out of primary colors, so we had to make combination colors for people's marks.
Kyle's poor monsters were just covered in these rings of pipe cleaners that we'd all dropped on. And the monsters never really were dangerous once the debuffs got put on them.
Particularly because it has a flow, right? Usually you fight X and then the mini boss, and then the boss shows up. And everyone knew, particularly if it was, a climax, that there was going to be the boss and that we should dump everything onto the boss.
All the dailies.
And so you'd be stun locked. You'd just be debuffed to heck and back and missing everything. And granted, you can still teleport away. You can still use your DM powers to nullify some of that, but you don't want to get rid of the characters' kits. So just a difficult addition to play. But other than that, I'd say that coming back 5th edition, you'll find a lot of the role play has been added back in. But it always comes down to the DM. We looked at text in 4.0 and said, can you summon fire randomly? Can you attack with your tail? The book says no. And oftentimes, though, as a DM those rules actually depended on my players. So there were times where I told my group they had a fire spell, but it said only in combat that they could use that. And I made it so they could only use that in combat. Not because I hated that player. It was actually because I was taming another player. In this particular, a power gamer in my group that was very book knowledge. And if I broke that rule, that agreement we had with his book knowledge for this other player so they could cast fire spells out of combat, who knows what that guy would have done with that information. What he would have run with, what he would have tried to pull off. Here's one from Drizzling Rose. Most cool archetype in fantasy. I love me some portal magic.
Ooh.
Sending people to the bottom of the ocean is cool. So what's your favorite archetype? And it looks like this is kind of powers.
Oh my goodness. I love the idea where you've got this inner power and then like you're put under extreme duress and just comes out of you with a scream or something. But I also like this you're just a human and then there's like superpowered dude who totally wants to protect you and he always shows up at the right time. You get into trouble all the time because you're doing something dumb or like you ran off crying or whatever.
Like Tuxedo Mask?
No,
that's what he does though.
no, not Tuxedo Mask.
He showed like she's in trouble,
but he drove
the
a
flower
bus.
lands.
That's not
That was an extra dimensional bus that he saved.
early...
Yeah.
I guess he's an early iteration, but not Tuxedo Mask.
Okay. But
I mean, I like the one where it's a character who's clearly kind of OP because of some sort of lineage, and then as the story progresses, those powers kind of unlock because they have to get better. Well, but they also have to learn how to use their powers.
What was the one we watched where she became a shrine goddess, and all the demons wanted her sweet blood? That would
be Kami-sama.
Yeah.
No, they didn't really want her blood, though.
Well, you're
talking about the fox demon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because she did go into the demon world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was bestowed powers by the previous shrine god.
No, that's true. But
And she was a human in a demon world, just like this last D&D thing. Demons love humans.
Yeah, we're delicious.
Regardless of what mark you have on you. What about you?
I do enjoy that one. The hidden powers under duress. But I think that's not too different from the Mal Reynolds gets back up after being stabbed.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones keeps going no matter how hard he's punched in the face. I think we would all like to imagine that under these extreme moments, we would unlock some sort of power that would allow us to break free or to not be manhandled by our oppressors.
That's true.
Archetype, though. I do like portals a lot because they're fun. They're very visually enjoyable when I think about something like Incredibles 2.
You like undead.
I do like undead. A lot.
Raising an army of undead.
Yeah.
Living forever.
I do. I like the... as a DM, I definitely enjoy the too far nature of it. But I would say the coolest archetype for me is still that Sabriel river that I've talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe not on this show exclusively, but certainly something I just love. It was the Abhorsen trilogy. And it's Garth Nix, so it can get a little bit, weird at times. Kind of like George R. Martin, where like he'll go to describe a female character naked, and he's a little too descriptive. And you're like, all right, dude, this is our main character. Like, you don't need to sexualize her. This is who I'm pretending to be here. You didn't have to talk about how buff Harry Potter was. Like, come on. But in that particular story, there is, as classic there is, the river of death. And when you die, there are the layers of the river. And I don't remember it anymore, really, but there was 9 or so. 9
levels of
levels. Hell. Exactly.
9 levels of the river.
And as each level goes deeper, the water becomes stronger. And when you die, you're a spirit and you're kind of whisked down the river. But if you're particularly resilient, if you're powerful, you can hold on. You can claw your way back into life. And those with just like, kind of the, I was murdered, I want vengeance. They'd come back as mindless undead, kind of Diablo style. And just claw their way back in, maybe Witcher even, and inhabit their body and wander through the town that not really sure, but maybe if they saw the person that murdered them, they'd charge them and try to, rip their faces off. The more ancient you are, the more powerful you are because the longer you've been holding on, and you may have been banished down the river, and your ability, your strength to claw back up made you this demigod in strength because you're so ancient of a dead. And I just love that idea. And that's what I like about The Witcher so much too, is just this idea that the nature of how you left this world could become a monster. And something that like Final Fantasy's explored as well. And I just really, really like that idea. If you died because you were, eating a body, well, guess what? Now you're a ghoul because you ate a body and you died from it. Now you're crazy. Great stuff. What else we got here? We got time to squeeze one more in. Oh, I actually, this will be an interesting one from Andrew. What's a piece of media that you two are on opposite opinions on, and why? Because if Garrett was here, I think we'd be talking about The Division and how boring I find.
Or Star Wars.
Well, yeah, newer Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what would you say that we're on opposite opinions on?
What are we on opposite opinions on? I love comedy with bad people in it. I love awkward comedies.
Yeah.
You do not like awkward comedies at all.
I mean, that's a difficulty to sit through. Mm-hmm. And it becomes ultimately easier if it's a cartoon, but I can feel their regret, feel their pain, their awkwardness.
And see, I love it because they're actors and they're trying to keep a straight face, pulling off this hilarious scene that they probably were sitting around coming up with and improvising for the day. And I love that idea because I really enjoyed that process myself. So to see them pull off such really awkward things so realistically, I really appreciate that kind of work and effort.
And tying to our earlier tweet discussion in a way, I am more immune to that when the characters are more outrageous.
That's true, because Sunny.
Yeah, The Office can't do it. Just, too awkward. Mm-hmm. Just squirming in my seat. Because
The Office, they're just real enough.
They're just people. Yeah, they're just real people who are just awful and awkward. But something, Tropic Thunder, right? Or Always Sunny in Philadelphia. These people are so drugged and awful to each other. They're caricatures of what even people really are, much like, in those same situations, The Office could be like SpongeBob. Mm-hmm. It's an office. It's a restaurant they're running, and these outrageous situations happen, and I'm perfectly fine watching that. And I can, in the more outrageous episodes of Sunny, absolutely deal with that. Now, when they're just like, when someone just has like their new girlfriend and they're trying to learn how to they're trying to dump them by being as awful as possible, that sort of stuff, regardless of how extreme the characters are, is maybe too real. Maybe because my roommate used to do that. He was horrible with breaking up with people. So he'd always try to invent these outlandish scenarios where he could finally break up with them.
Instead of just breaking up with them straight up?
Yeah.
He'd
make it last.
Oh,
and it was tough to be in that house at times.
Oh, well, on the opposite spectrum, you really like movies like He-Man or Conan the Barbarian. I can't stay awake during movies like that.
Yeah. And so to kind of relate that to our previous conversation about Road Warrior, I would say those are both purposefully slow movies. So is it because Conan is less about people and more about the journey?
It's bad sets, bad acting.
Yeah.
bad stunts. But I mean, we all like our own bad movies. So and then there's no character I really like in those movies, I think, right? There's no one person that I watch and I go, yeah, I can get through because I can follow this individual right here.
But it's a world of adventure. But I absolutely see what you mean. Like, to me, it's a lot of, in Conan, the music is fantastic. That's too strong a word. It's dated.
You can say fantastic,
sure, but it's very dated.
It's a timepiece.
But you show me a movie where we're like student filming, watching the car drive over the hill, goes by, then we have to watch it leave through the next channel, and then we see it drive again and drive again and drive again. I'm like, what are you trying? Is this filler? What are you trying to do to me? What is the point of this? But instead, you have, in the distance, a lone warrior walking for an extended period of time. I'm like, ooh, that makes the world feel big. Look at the hobbits walk. Look at the world. It took so much. It was a journey to get there, which is, I'm sure, what that guy, that student film, or that original Mad Max is showing with the car going. But it's just like, shut up. Get on with your story.
Get to the point already.
But I also know what driving a car is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's less of a adventure to be had there.
Maybe, right?
I love the idea of, and Conan's a story of vengeance. And you can set out on your own. It's dangerous and he's poor. But he gets to that final place. But yeah.
I've also never lived in a desert, so maybe I don't understand the appeal of a desert setting.
Maybe it has a beauty to it, which is,
yeah. And we've driven through the desert, but I've never lived there, and it doesn't capture my imagination the same way a forest does.
Well, luckily they don't set a lot of fantasy movies in the swamps of Florida.
No, they don't. That would be gross.
Here's an interesting kind of follow-up. Do you like the opening of The Shining, where the car is driving through the forest to get to the hotel? That's less on the car. That's a lot on the scenery around it, and it's building the sense of isolation. So I enjoy it, but is that a deal breaker for you?
Oh, no. I have nothing wrong with cars driving and people walking. I think it's just because I'm not into the story, and also there's not a character I enjoy watching in it. So there's really nothing there to hold my imagination.
Fair. So The Office for me and Conan for you?
Yeah, those would be two things. I can't think of anything else right now, but there's probably more.
I think that's fair. Other than just, reading in general, because reading's hard.
But you've been reading a lot on your phone.
I have. It's
You've been coming to me, telling me about these things you just learned.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, Kyle, you keep reading.
But I mean, like, sitting down with a book. Like, books have to be very, very to my taste.
Gotcha.
For me to even get into. I can't just sit down and read a book and hope that there's a part of it I like. Because I don't recover from that investment.
So in that way, are you not a fan of history books, science books, nonfiction?
I think one of the big problems with history is that you got to put a face to the name. And so I really struggled with reading Game of Thrones until I saw the first season.
Yeah.
And then once I got all the names figured out, I was okay. But until that, they just kind of mishmash.
So what if I then told you it's a history book, and there are lots of names, sure, but a lot of them are anecdotes. So it's more about the stories of the people than it is a name and a date.
There you're telling me it's tough to... That'd be tough to get into, because it's got to be localized. So better as an audiobook there, because
Okay.
I can join the reader in this kind of fart off. Mm-hmm. But because of, I'd say, dyslexia here, this paragraph that you dropped on me was work. And you're saying this hard work didn't matter to your ultimate story? It's like when they fart off about what's on the table for too long, or the color of the grass. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I thought we're friends. I thought you were only going to tell me important information. And maybe this comes from a very base level of betrayal I felt in math class when I got my very first D ever. I was a A-B student. But then math came along and started presenting useless information. And you were supposed to
try and trick you?
Yeah, you were supposed to omit the useless information. And I've got an imagination. So I would work into my head why that answer could be C. Because the useless information mattered. And they're like, oh, tricked you. That information was false. Or wasn't part of the problem. And I'm like, well, what was the point? In what time in my life am I going to be presented with useless information and have to sort through and find the important? Oh, all
internet.
the time.
Yeah.
All the
every
freaking
day
time.
of your life.
unless you're part of the machine and you only get past the stuff that you need to do, which something like data entry taught me when I was working that job. But when you're being creative, when you're running your own business, there's tons of useless information you're presented with all the time that you just got to recover from. So in the end, Mr. Wright, I learned from my D, but it hurt. It hurt really bad. And I got held back. I had to go into, most kids jumped to, what was it, Algebra 1, and I had to go to Geometry 2 instead of Geometry 1 to Algebra 1 or something like that. And so that hurt.
Yeah.
But by that next year, I was failing Latin and Spanish. So there was clearly
something wrong?
Yeah, the spelling tests were not going well. The English class, and I'll still always feel bad about that particular one, where I was like, oh yeah, I turned it in. You must have lost it. And she believed me. I never turned that paper in. I told her later on. I felt bad. 3 years later, I saw her and I was like, you know what? I lied. I'm sorry.
My
I
mom
never turned in that paper.
Kicked my butt. Oh my God. My dad would have been on me.
Oh, I was in trouble enough for the D's and F's and whatnot at that point. So this was long after, this was my personal thing to apologize for. And I forget her, Deborah or something like that. I don't remember her name anymore. I don't remember her name because she was really nice to me, unlike the tragic teachers like Mr. Wright. At any rate, that makes it sound like that was a bad story. Well, that'll do it for today. Let's go with that. We are at time. It is time for us to head over to my own channel and play some Heroes of the Storm. Garrett will be back next week.
Yes, he will.
As we said, he was in the keys. Thank you for joining me, Kristen. Where can people find you? What other shows do you do? Where would you like people to look?
You can find me on Twitter at _KristenAshton_. That's the main thing where I tweet all of my happenings. And I do have a podcast, Talking Pictures Alliance, over on Twitter at TPAcast, where Jeff Reynolds and I have a movie book club of sorts. A movie club. I don't know, movie cine club. We're still working on that one, but this coming Sunday, we're going to be talking about The Departed with Leonardo DiCaprio, a Martin Scorsese film.
Which is not what the nodding's from.
No, yeah, the nodding is from Anger Management.
Yeah, the nodding gif. I thought we'd see that in there. I mean, because it's appropriate age, maybe even a little younger.
Sorry to let you down, Kyle.
Yeah.
And so now he hates The Departed.
I enjoyed it. It was heavy, but it didn't haunt me. So it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. It reminded me of movies like Lucky Slevin.
Yeah, Lucky Number 11.
But without the happy ending.
Yeah.
Of sorts. Marky Mark had a, happy
Marky Mark
had a happy ending.
You heard it here, folks. Marky Mark had a happy ending. Where can people find you, Kyle?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson, as well as youtube.com/Kyle Ferguson. Of course, you can find me on Into the Nexus this week, where I'm hoping to put together a little fun something for us, but it is still in the works. So I will let you all know then. Until next time, I'll do the Garrett line. Good luck, have fun, and take care. And what do you say, Kristen? Do you have an outro?
That's a spicy meatball.
That's a spicy meatball. Bye, everybody.
Oh.